Hello, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com talking with you about reality shifts, Mandela Effects, flip-flopping reality shifts, and reality residue. It's a human need of ours to look for evidence when we see something anomalous, like a reality shift or a Mandela Effect. And I recently heard that Abraham Lincoln apparently has a living, or he did have a living descendant up until in the 1980s. That's news to me because in my previous histories, where I've read his biography, he never had a living descendant of any kind. So this is a big change for me right now, and that's fun to experience. I've had so many thousands of reality shifts and Mandela effects that personally I'm not doubting them as much as I did when I first started experiencing them. Back then, I wanted evidence, and I found it from other experiencers who would share with me that they also remembered things either similarly to how I did, or they'd also had shifts in reality and could help me recognize that I'm not the only one going through this. So flip-flopping reality shifts is interesting. I describe a situation in my book, Reality Shifts, When Consciousness Changes the Physical World, in which I was camping and a car, very early model Honda, every time I'd walk back to it after having locked the doors, I would find the doors were unlocked. This was before I had a car that had the automatic door locking system, so I was perplexed by that, and the fact that the doors would seem to lock and unlock themselves, back and forth, and it was strange, to put it mildly. I later noticed when I looked out the window of my house that my neighbor's roof sometimes, but not always, would have fancy leaf guard protection system installed on top of the rain gutters. So one morning there's this fancy system that obviously took hours or days to install and a lot of money, and then later that same day no leaf guard system was there whatsoever. And it would go back and forth. This didn't matter a lot to me, and now their house does not have a leaf guard system. That's okay. It didn't really impact me, so I didn't have any vote on which way I'd prefer that it went. But I did care when I saw one day that our family dog, who was quite elderly, was developing what appeared to be cataracts. His eyes were clouding up. I remembered that when he had had previously what looked like the onset of hip dysplasia, I thought, no! And we did a lot of walking with him, and all evidence and trace of that vanished. So I felt hopeful that we could do this again. I just think, no, he's going to have good vision. The next time I looked at his eyes, they were clear. That's great, but there are other members of the household. So one day, I heard from another household member bad news about the dog. And I said, oh, is it about his eyes? And found out, yes, he's getting cataracts. And I said, that's okay. Sometimes it looks like he has cataracts, but you can just check again and you'll see his eyes are clear. And so we did that, and there was a period of a few days, maybe a week almost, where it would switch back and forth until we locked in no cataracts, clear vision. And you can have fun with these flip-flops, because if you're missing something like I was making a pie, I couldn't find my nutmeg in the cabinet spice rack. It's up in the cupboard where I keep it. I would look on the shelf and see that it wasn't there. So it was not there. A whole 50 or 60 other spices were there. I dug through everything, didn't find it, shut the cupboard doors, and I walked over just to walk away. It's the whole thing of you walk away and then you come back. So I walked away to the counter, looked there, it wasn't there. Then I walked back and I looked exactly where I hoped to find it, and there it was on the front left. So I did have to do this 4 or 5 times, so I don't want to give you the impression you only have to look once. Actually, it's good to know that it could happen at any point. So I don't recommend doing this to infinity, but sometimes you can work with this flip-flop and expect a shift and get a shift. Might not happen the first time, keep checking and you might see it later. I've also found lost items that way. So it's very useful. And something that I want to mention about reality residue is it's another hope right now where people are experiencing Mandela effects, and they're thinking if you just go back far enough in time, you'll see evidence before the timeline shift or whatever they're thinking happened, that you'll see evidence before that happened. What I have instead found over 20 years of research is, and it doesn't mean it's definitive, it's just what I've experienced and what people have written to me, is usually there's a consistent history in whatever official history reality you're in. So the official history might include people like ourselves, Mandela Effect experiencers, reality shifters, who say, yep, I've written a description of it, I've drawn a picture of it, I've simulated what I think I saw. It's not the real thing, but it's what I remember. So you'll get people's artistic representations of previous histories, but not the so-called smoking gun physical evidence. But no worries. What I suggest people who are looking for reality residue to do in addition to that, because you can keep looking, maybe someone will find something. Usually so far it's been misprints, typos, things that you can explain away some other way, rather than massive physical evidence that's overwhelmingly persuasive. So what I like people to think about is these flip-flops. Look for those, and that can be very strong evidence for the person experiencing it. Finally, I'd like to talk about the power of suggestion, because some people accuse Mandela Effect experiencers of being blind to false memories. What I'd like to say is there is a power of suggestion, and false memories can be true, and so can the placebo effect. So what I'm saying is the power of suggestion is so strong that we can indeed experience positive benefits, as I've previously discussed in other blog posts and videos, and as Harvard is studying at their program in placebo studies. And they've spent millions of dollars to research this, so they're serious about it. And final note is that even companies like Bank of America, Merrill Lynch are starting to realize, in their official statement, they said there's a 20 to 50% chance we're living in the matrix, meaning the world we experience as real is actually just a simulation. That's been also stated by Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Nick Bostrom. I personally don't prescribe to the computer simulation idea. That's currently our top technology. So saying like, oh, that's what reality is foolish. We'll definitely have something better than computer simulations. So it's our way of looking at reality and putting it in a construct that we can kind of comprehend, that get our minds around it. So that's the way I'd suggest we look at that. And as far as new paradigms taking time to be adopted, they do. We're moving into the new quantum age. That means new logic, the old Aristotelian logic with its three principles of identity, contradiction, and the excluded middle. That has seen better days. It doesn't work anymore with quantum physics. So while the mainstream media and modern science make their adjustments to the quantum age, I'd like you to keep asking how good can it get, especially when you're considering flip-flopping realities. Until next time, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com. Thanks.